Hi, my name is Danny Brown. I'm the CEO of Myriad Real Estate Group, and today we are going to talk about how to price your home accurately. So when it comes to pricing your home, it's not really rocket science. You really want to look at comparable properties that have sold within the last few months. I try not to go back further than 6 months, and most appraisers are the same. And in a volatile market where pricing is going down or going up really rapidly, I try to limit going back super far just in general. So I try to go back only 30 days, maybe 60, 90, keeping it as close to the day you're going active as possible so that that information is as relevant as it possibly can be. So I generally look at homes that have closed to tell me where we've been, homes that are under contract to tell me where we are, and homes that are active within reason to tell me where we're going. The trouble with active homes on the market is there's no rule that says that you have to price a home accurately. If you find a realtor that's willing to take your listing and homes in the area are selling for $500,000 but you want to list it at $1 million, as long as the realtor is willing to do that, they'll do it. So there's no rule that says that an active home on the market needs to be priced accurately. So take that, take active homes with a grain of salt. I think it's those pending under contract homes that are probably the most important and most valuable to when it comes to pricing your home. And then what we do is we call those agents and we ask them, try to pick their brains. And some agents will share that information with you and say, we're under contract here, or we're relatively close to list price, or we were paying some in concessions. So we try to find that information out and call those agents. And if we can't get that information, then we just look at averages and find out what is the average sales price to the average list price so that we can kind of infer where that home may eventually close. You want to compare apples to apples, right? So when you're looking at comps, you want to try and stay within your own subdivision if you can. I typically try to find homes, obviously, that are the same square footage. Most master plan subdivisions have like 6 floor plans, right? And it's one of the reasons why I think Phoenix is kind of the epicenter of all things real estate, because we are the capital of master plan communities. You get these big master plan communities and builders have their 6, 7, 8 different floor plans that they build. And it is relatively simple to comp those out if those floor plans have sold within the last 3 to 6 months. If they haven't, then you want to try and stay within the same subdivision. Only compare single story to single story or 2-story to 2-story. 2-story homes have less demand for them. They sell at a lower price per square foot. So imagine you have a 2,000 square foot single family home that's 1-story. That is a larger footprint and feels bigger, where if you have a 2,000 square foot 2-story, that's on top of one another and it feels a little bit more cramped. And most buyers are either, I only want single story, or I'd take both. It's very rare to have a buyer say, I only want a 2-story home. So your pool of buyers for a single story is larger than your pool of buyers for a 2-story. Therefore, they're not comps. You don't want to compare those two properties if you can avoid it. Square footage is huge. So I try to stay within 85% of the square footage on either side, so that you're really kind of comparing similar homes. The price per square foot, I always argue with buyers, is a horrible, horrible way to value a property here in Phoenix, because the smaller the square footage, the higher the price per square foot. And the larger the home, the lower the price per square foot, and that has to do with the volume of material. If you are buying less material to make a smaller house, you are paying a lot more money to build that smaller house. The labor's more expensive, the material's more expensive because you're not buying as much. Think about buying something at, say, AJ's versus buying something at Costco, right? You're buying in bulk, so it's going to be cheaper. Same thing for housing. So price per square foot, terrible way to price a home. If you can't find similar square footage within the same subdivision, then you start slowly going out. And I try to keep things within a mile radius as the crow flies. If you have really unique homes that, where you're trying to compare maybe a home that's on an acreage, or it's a very unique property architecturally, then you can absolutely go further out. You can go further back in time. But for the most part, you want to keep it within a mile radius. If you can't keep it within the same subdivision, year built is huge. So if you've got new construction, that is always going to sell for above market value. So I have a really hard time with brand new homes versus resale. Resale homes, it's like buying a new car, right? As soon as you drive it off the lot, it's worth less. As soon as you move in, it's worth less. So if you're selling a home that you've lived in for a year or two, you cannot use the brand new homes that the builder is selling as comps. So you have to discount them, because why is someone going to pay brand new prices for your home that you've lived in when they could just go buy a brand new home and then design it themselves? So you've got to discount it a bit, right? And if you're in a home that is in an area that's well developed, you don't want to compare a house that was built in, say, the 60s, 70s, or 80s to something that was built in the 2000s. So you want to try to keep homes within 10, 15 years of each other. Again, similar square footage. You're, again, just really trying to compare apples to apples when you're doing your pricing model. And then you make adjustments based on what the homes look like. So when we go into our listing appointments, I've never seen this person's home. They might give me some details on what sort of upgrades they have. So when we come in, we show them the gambit, and we actually show them pictures of homes that have sold similar to theirs, so that we can kind of match it up and have a conversation about what's a pool worth in this neighborhood versus maybe you not having a pool, 3-car garage versus a 2-car garage. So those homes can be comps for each other. You just have to make price adjustments based on that specific area. And so how do we do that? How do we start? Well, I'm looking for the best possible comp to start with. So what is my ideal comp? It is in the same neighborhood or subdivision. It is as close to that square footage as possible, as close to that home in terms of the updates that it has. So it's as close or similar to that home as I can possibly get, and very recent in terms of being under contract or actually closing and selling. And then I start making tweaks to those. I might go out a little bit further. I'll adjust those square footages, make them a little bit wider. I may go back a little bit further in time, right? So in a market that's volatile, like we've been in the last few months, I'm trying to limit that to the last 30, 60, 90 days. But I will go as far back as 6 months if I need to. And I'll even go back within a year. So, I've got some clients who have been looking recently in some townhome subdivisions in Central Phoenix. And these are infill projects where they're brand new, built within the last decade, and it's really hard to comp them out. So looking back and say, okay, what was the last sale that took place within that subdivision as kind of a benchmark, right? And then I can infer that we have been in a market that's either been inclining, declining, staying relatively flat, and now I kind of know just a general target. So for me, I've been doing this for so long that it starts to become second nature and kind of just a feeling of what this home is worth based on what the market is doing at the time. But for you, it's going to be more looking, again, just apples to apples, right? And just getting a general frame of reference on what that home might be worth at that date and time. Now you've done all this, why is it so important to price your home accurately? Well, I always have conversations with sellers that they always want to start here to allow themselves room to negotiate down. Buyers aren't dumb, they know that, they know what a home is worth, and if you price too high, what you end up risking is people just not even seeing your house. They're not necessarily aware that you're open to negotiations, and even if we put that language in there, sellers open to negotiations, they're going to pass your home for somebody that is more realistic in their pricing. It is not super common for buyers just to send you an offer, right? Like, I've had these conversations with sellers. Well, they like the home, but why aren't they just submitting an offer and starting the conversation? Well, because they may have found somebody that was priced more accurately that they don't need to have as an extreme of a conversation, right? They're more realistic in their pricing. So I believe that it is in everybody's best interest to price your home accurately on day one. Don't worry about trying to negotiate down. If you price your home accurately, you may end up with multiple parties interested in your home. And when that happens, you could actually sell above what we initially thought it was worth. So pricing your home accurately on day one is so important. The way the MLS works and the way home searches work is when you list your home, it gets email blasted out to everyone who is looking for a home like yours. So imagine 100 people are set up on home searches, they all get it at the same time. And that's why you see a ton of your activity in terms of showings in the first couple of weeks you're on the market, because you're getting blasted out to all those people, and that's the most eyes you're gonna have on your home, and you get one opportunity to make a first impression, right? So you want to put your best foot forward. That includes price, presentation. We go all out on our marketing on day one because we want as many eyes on your home as possible. Then your number of showings starts to decrease as time goes on. You've got to start doing price drops. If you're in a volatile market where home values are flat or even coming down like we've been, you have to do something that's called chasing the market. So if you were supposed to be priced here, but you decided to price here and the market has steadily gone down, instead of reducing your price to where you should have started, you have to reduce it even more to get ahead of where the market is headed. So you are chasing that declining market. So pricing is so important. If you price too low, now I'm an advocate of you can never price a home too low within reason, because if you do, the market's gonna see that inefficiency and you're gonna get multiple people interested in your home and potentially drive that price up. It is a strategy. It can be there's no guarantees. So it has to be a price below market value that if you only got the one offer, you'd be comfortable with taking. But if you price your home a little bit below market value, you will get more interest in it and it could potentially get those multiple offers. So pricing is just super important on day one. Don't overprice to negotiate down. That never works. Let's talk about Zillow. I use an app called HomeBot, and they use algorithms to price homes. Redfin has theirs. All these different websites have these valuations that they assign to homes. And they're just using algorithms. Sometimes the algorithm is spot on. Like I said, this is the capital of master plan subdivisions. So if it's super easy for the algorithm, if your floor plan has sold within the last 3 months 6 times and all at the same price, odds are the algorithm will get it correct. But if you're in a more unique neighborhood, Phoenix is kind of a melting pot as well, especially in central Phoenix where homes are built in the 50s, 60s, and they'll be right next door to homes that were built in the 2000s. And so the algorithm has really hard time differentiating those. They also have a really hard time differentiating photos. So, a prime example is Facebook eliminated a photo of a fertility statue because it showed breasts, and they just took it off of the platform altogether and said that it was bad content, right? So my point being is that these AI, it's really bad at differentiating photos. So they can't take in the subtle nuances that differentiate homes from one another. So it's a really poor way to value your home. And if you don't believe me, Zillow just recently lost over $500 million on their they were buying homes to turn around and flip them based on their Zestimate. So even them using their own tool to value homes cost them over $500 million. Now, as a listing agent, I always look at Zestimate, not to solidify the valuation that I've come up with, but knowing that you probably have looked at Zestimate so that I know what I'm walking into. Is the Zestimate way too high? So am I potentially dealing with an unrealistic seller? Is it super low? Is it spot on? So I'm always referencing the Zestimate because the public does, but I don't think that you should hang your hat on what an algorithm decides your home is worth. Maybe someday, but the AI just isn't there to be able to tell the subtle nuances between homes to come up with an accurate price. So I know this is a lot of information. If you want us to value your home and just give you an estimate of value, let us know. We're happy to do that. We do that for clients all the time, and we do it so often that if I have a listing appointment with a client one day, but they're not ready to list their home for 2, 3, 4 weeks or longer, I do an updated market analysis the week that we're going live because I want the most accurate data possible. So if you want an estimate of your home value, let us know. We're happy to do that. Obviously restricted to Maricopa County because that's where we're at. But any questions on how we value homes, leave them in the comments. Don't forget to give this a like and subscribe, and we will see you next time.